Thank you. And hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Cinema on the Extras. This week we're lucky to be joined by a prestigious actress from the beloved film Shrek, whose 25th anniversary is this year, Courtney Cogs.
Hi, thank you. It's an honor. I love all the work you're doing for those of us in the extra space. Working on Shrek was the highlight of my career.
Great. Tell us more about that.
Like I said, this was a life-changing experience for me. I remember doing my first audition for DreamWorks and they said, "We appreciate how much you'd take into consideration all the intricacies and motivations Duloc Woman 6 might have." And that was it. That's all it took. I was hired to be Duloc Woman 6.
That's quite the role.
Many people don't know that even extras dabble in method acting. I know this program has spoken to a bunch of them, but when I showed the execs what it truly meant to be Duloc Woman 6, they wanted more.
And what things did they have you do?
Well, I came in full garb. I changed my entire look to this random woman that would be found in Duloc.
Well, we appreciate you pulling that out of storage. It's cool to see a piece of history brought to life again after so long.
Oh, I still wear this most days of the week, even now. In fact, DreamWorks loved me so much, they had me play the entire crowd in the Coliseum fight scene. It's not common knowledge, but Shrek is fully mocapped.
So, somebody mocaps flying fairies and dragons?
I don't know all the specifics. I'm just here to do an unmasked. I spent an entire summer mocapping every single person in that crowd. They told me they'd put in someone that looks identical to me. They loved my vibe. And if you take a look at this frame right here, you'll see someone that looks just like me. Animated by some of the best animators of the early 2000s.
Wow! Look at that! I mean, it's really you. Well, you know the show isn't all about the background scenes. We want to hear the hot goss of being on set.
I could go on forever about all the things that happened during production.
Well, go ahead. Tell us about it. Was there anything interesting that may have happened with some of the more prominent names on the billing?
Well, as you know, Shrek has a star-studded cast, and while I didn't get along with all of them, you pick up a lot of interesting stories when you're in their orbit. They're called stars for a reason.
Yeah, I guess they are.
As the leading female extra, of course I look up to the film's leading female protagonist, Cameron Diaz. You know, a little known fact, she was actually a child actress named Camden Diaz. Unfortunately, things did not go her way. She started as an extra like me, unbilled, just trying to get her foot in the door, but early Hollywood was not having her. She was not clicking.
I've never even heard of Camden Diaz.
Yeah, they did their best to get rid of it. You know, it's no secret that there are many secrets in Hollywood. Backroom deals, muddy perpetuity contracts, and most sinister, secret societies.
I didn't think this was gonna go in this direction.
Yeah. Part of scrubbing her previous identity was joining the Green Collective.
And, what's that?
One of many secret groups that are found in the greater Hollywood area. But great is not what I'd call them. Basically, they're a secret society that astroturfs, if you'll excuse the pun, movies where the most prominent and memorable color is green.
I don't understand what their reasoning for that could be.
Some sort of ancient mystical color theory. But Cameron Diaz, she is a part of it. And if you need proof, let's think of her most important roles. When you think of her, you immediately think of The Mask. She may have been in other things, but Shrek, he's not purple. He's not pink.
He's green.
Yeah, he is. He is green, isn't he? You know, I talked to a couple people that worked on Bad Teacher, and it's funny. In all the promotional art, they used the very classic teacher's apple. She fought tooth and nail to change the color of that apple to green. I don't want to talk about this, but Justin Timberlake and co-star Jason Segel both pulled a prank on her after her breakdown on the set when they wouldn't change the color of that apple. In a duet of his hit song, Cry Me a River.
I love that song.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get back on track here. Shrek is a comedy. Do you have anything to say about how funny the atmosphere was on set?
A lot of people know Shrek was supposed to be played by the late, great Chris Farley, so bringing in other comedic talent that rivals him was a tall order. Who better to keep the franchise afloat than one of the greatest to ever do it? Edward Murphy.
Edward?
Well, most people call him Eddie. He told me to call him Ed. We still see each other pretty frequently. Well, I see him. I'm not allowed within 40 feet of him anymore.
Eddie Murphy got a restraining order against you?
Yeah, I think he was just doing that as a joke. As a comedian, he is pretty funny. I remember I'd be outside of his trailer telling him through his window my favorite jokes he'd tell on the road. He used to think that was so funny. One time he even said, "No comedian likes when you tell them their own jokes, especially ones they wrote 20 years ago." God, I still crack up thinking about that. We used to play around all the time before the restraining order.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty funny joke from Edward. But hold on, Courtney. Why does it feel like you're ignoring someone pretty integral to these films?
You're talking about Mike, aren't you?
Of course I am. He's the highest billed and the lead of the franchise. He's been a staple in comedic films for decades at this point, working with many different actors and extras, and creating worlds with some of the most famous people like Beyonce or even the amazing Stephen Anthony Lawrence. Or
Mike Myers doesn't care about extras.
Okay. So we will continue this conversation after a short break. Go to commercial.
It's the Content Cleric Volume 1 collection, featuring classics for all ages. Experience content from a premium creator in one full-length collection, with timeless uploads covering masterpieces such as Dead Rising, Spot Goes to Hollywood, Castlevania, Yakuza, Sonic Adventure, Resident Evil, and many more. Pre-order now to receive a bonus disc with the CC Awards, an award show featuring notable names across various uploads. The Content Cleric Volume 1 collection, available now. Pre-ordering the collection locks you into a legal binding contract with the CC Corp and requires you by law to watch at least 5 videos, or YouTube agents will locate you through already signed terms of services and abduct you, taping your eyes and forcing you to watch them. CC Corp and all affiliates have agreed that this is probably the only way that anyone could endure this content on a large scale, so it is advised that you do so of your own volition. Subscribe now!
And we're back with Courtney Coggs. She left us on quite the cliffhanger. Courtney, so tell us about all the qualms you had with the lead actor, Mike Myers.
Sorry. First off, I want to say I'm sorry to you. I shouldn't have brought my intense feelings here. As an actor, I should be able to control my feelings. But I guess in real life, you don't get a director to just yell cut when you break character.
It's really fine. We're here to understand the great things and maybe the less great things that you had to go through being a part of a project like Shrek.
It's funny. Mike was not only my biggest influence, but what I'd call a close friend. When I'd deliver a line wrong, when I'd eat too much at the craft food station, he'd look at me and say, "You're an extra in an animated movie. You're the foundation. Without you, there wouldn't be a film. It wouldn't be believable." I believed every second of it.
What happened?
I guess it all fell apart after a dinner he and I had. We were talking about the third installment in the Austin Powers trilogy. He said he had reservations about it. I, of course, asked him what he meant. He told me, he said, "Courtney, I can't do what I want to do." I replied with some questionary response I can't really recall. He told me he only got into movies to make a film where he could play every role. He said he admired extras more than anyone else, and that studios would always cast him as a leading role. He didn't want that.
Go on, tell us what he wanted.
He wanted the challenge it takes to not be the center of attention, but to hold presence in a room. I looked up to him. This was a beautiful way of thinking. But when DreamWorks decided to pass on bringing my character back for Shrek 2 onwards, I didn't know where to turn. So I looked to Mike. He told me, "Don't worry, kiddo. If I have open roles in the future, we'll work together again."
That's very bold of him to extend that olive branch. So why did DreamWorks not bring back such a prolific character like Duloc Woman 6?
I'm not sure. They sent me an email saying the recording studio couldn't accommodate the legal distance required for me to be away from Ed. And they said the best option they had was to kill off my character in some tragic off-screen death.
Horrible. I can't even imagine.
It's not even the worst part. Years later, I bumped into Mike. He was in a clothing shop, in a room full of mirrors. Think like a place where you might see all angles of your outfit. He was broken.
Broken how?
This was probably early 2009, so just after The Love Guru came out. He said, "Look at this mirror." Then he did a Scottish accent and turned to another mirror. "Look at this mirror." Then he flipped around to a final mirror. "Look at this mirror," he said, in a female accent. "I'm shattered," he said, still in a female accent, "just like this mirror," and smashed it right in front of my face. When the police arrived, I couldn't let them take Mike in. I confessed for him, and unfortunately, as a starving actor, I had priors, so I went away. Prison doesn't go well for actors. That's all I'll say. I was let out last year, and I was hanging out outside the Actors Guild. A couple of spry young actresses walked by and noticed me. They said, "Weren't you in Shrek?" It was the first time I've ever been recognized. They said, "We're all going to be in Shrek 5, releasing in 2027.
And what did you do then?
I got on a bus. I won't say exactly where I went, but I ended up at Mike's house. He knew it was me. I said to him, "You told me you'd visit me in prison. You said, 'Take the fall for me for this, and I'll visit you every day.' You said you'd make sure I was okay in prison. You don't know how it was." And he looked at me and he said words I'd never forget till the day I die. "You made my dream come true."
What dream was that?
Think back to what he said to me. He said he wanted to play every extra in some grand play. And he did. Not only did he stay true to his word, he gained what he dreamed of for the entirety of his career. He played the warden, 3 different guards, the judge that sentenced me, and my cellmate every day for nearly 17 years.
That's outrageous.
And then he said the words no actress would want to hear. Every role for Shrek 5 has been filled. And he slowly closed the door in my face.
Riveting stuff. Anyway, if If you'd like to see Courtney Cogs as Duloc Woman 6, Shrek is returning to theaters for its 25th anniversary this year. Thank you very much, Courtney.
Thank you.
Bye!
Somebody once told me the world was gonna roll me, and that fairy tales weren't real. You'll never be the princess trapped in another castle. Get a haircut. No one's climbing that dirty weave to save you. Your father is taking shifts at a local bar because you maxed our credit cards out on magic beans. Stop rubbing that lamp, weirdo. I'm trying to eat here. Stories passed along through generations, crushed beneath a world that has grown so cold it would make the Frost King keep his fur coat on. And you wouldn't be Pinocchio if you said it was because we've all lost a little joy. The joy that comes with a story of 7 bearded perverts living with an innocent princess. The joy that comes from a story of a fish woman choosing life in a 1-bedroom efficiency over an underwater kingdom with singing fish. Even the joy that comes with the story of a lady who finds a minotaur in a suit attractive that mirrors modern romance novels. These tales bring us back to a simpler time where characters were one-dimensional and you didn't have to wonder if they'd be in 15 sequels or whether or not they fit within a certain timeline. Somehow this game fits within our timeline, and whether or not that's a good thing is up to you. So without further ado, I bring you the content cleric of Shrek Super Party. Released on various dates across late 2002, Shrek Super Party was developed by Mass Media and TDK Mediactive and looked to cash in on the wave of success brought about by the titans of their genre. Games like Mario Party, released in 1999, or Fusion Frenzy, released in 2001, were cultural successes that paved the way towards a greenlight on a project like this. Shrek Super Party is DreamWorks walking a tightrope to not be sued by the most litigious group in gaming history, Nintendo. Taking essentially every single idea from another franchise and watering it down to seem different enough to not be sued using a pre-existing IP the company owned. And just like actually watering something down, this leaves most mechanics feeling diluted and bland, some becoming even unrecognizable. Before getting into a pretty depressing list of negatives this game brings to the table, I will say that the devs did their best to create something familiar, but uniquely different. Unfortunately, most of these changes either make the game more difficult to understand, more of a chore to get through, or less of an attractive option when choosing a game to buy. This video will make a lot of comparisons between mechanics of other party games and Shrek Super Party itself, but when applicable, I'll make sure to give the game kudos. Starting with character selection, Shrek Super Party features 6 playable characters: Shrek, Donkey, Fiona, Monsieur Hood, Thelonious, and Lord Farquaad. These characters are only skin deep, however, as they are completely mute for the entirety of the game. This decision more than likely was to save on cost for having actors reprise their roles, but feels like a missing piece that is necessary and very prevalent in aforementioned titles such as Mario Party and Fusion Frenzy. The mirror acts as an announcer and a game narrator and is the only fleshed out character within the game. In most ways, this is actually a pretty cool system for its time, expanding on the lack of narration in Mario Party and doing its best to mirror the narration in a game like Fusion Frenzy. My favorite part is that he doesn't let you forget that you're behind. While losing to a Fiona for 15 rounds in a row, you'll be constantly reminded. Speaking of losing, let's talk about where losing begins. In the preliminary round. Unlike other games where you may roll a die to see who goes first, instead, you'll be setting up your base points by catching bugs. You heard me right. You'll be walking around a flat surface, collecting bugs. This short minigame serves to establish how points are calculated in Shrek Super Party. And I'm sorry to tell you that it's not as simple as collecting a star. This game features 5 different types of bugs, each with their own weighted value. Green bugs worth 1, red bugs worth 2, yellow bugs worth 3, orange bugs worth 4, and blue bugs being worth 5. You'd think that was pretty simple. You'd think that would be a pretty straightforward system. You might think you just collect a bunch of blue bugs and you win. And while that might be true sometimes, you could win by adding another green to the amount of bugs you have. Let me explain. Shrek Super Party has score multipliers, and bug trading based on performance, with the top player of the minigame i.e. the winner, able to trade last, giving them the most leverage and final say in each round's acquired points. Here's the official scoring math from the game's manual. An example of this would be 4 green bugs gives you 24 points, even though they're worth 1, because each green bug is worth 1, but because you have 4 of them, you get an additional bonus of 20 points. But that's not always true, because this game has an odd bug, if you'll excuse the pun. Here's a screenshot of me trading in 3 red and 2 blue, with the total score visible up top, 16 plus 20. This point may not matter in this specific example, but the math should have been 15 plus 21, not 16 plus 20. And while that may be the same score technically, if you don't have 2 different types of bugs being traded in, sometimes the game will still round down, leaving you with 1 point less than you needed to win. These bugs ultimately are calculated together to give you what's known as precious drops, the totality of your score for that game. Thankfully, the settings menu allows you to actually change the required amount of precious drops and save you the headache of losing a 2-hour run when first getting into Shrek Super Party. So how do rounds themselves function? Well, following the bug catching game, player 1 goes first, and after an introduction from the mirror, the player chooses one of 5 biomes, think boards, to traverse. Unlike most party games, all of the boards exist within the same game. You just get to choose which one you go to. And much like Fusion Frenzy, the board you choose determines the mini-games you might bring the players into. Might being a keyword, as turns officially begin with a marble and a flat board containing divots. Why start with something simple like dice, which is very common in board games in general, when you can use a mystical marble flying around to choose where you're going? This does give players a little more agency, however, in that whichever spot the marble is above will most likely not be picked if the player presses the button while the marble hovers over it, as the marble, while at first glance looks glass or metal, is actually made of a very bouncy rubber, and it will fly to another side of the board. So if you can determine what any of the various icons above the spaces on the board are, with no information and without a map, mind you, you can avoid spots that may make things worse. But let's say you don't land on a spot that forgoes the bug points you just earned, and you begin a minigame. This is where the game shines. It wouldn't be a party game without minigames. And while there aren't many of them, and most of them have been seen and done better in other games, I have to say, there is a nice variety of them. Shrek Super Party features 30 distinct minigames that you will more than likely lose on your first play. This isn't because the games are inherently difficult. It is, simply put, because you're given a wooden, stagnant image with bugs crawling around it, containing a brief description of what you'll be doing in said minigame. That's right. No video like Mario Party, no practice mode like Fusion Frenzy. Nope. Just you, the 4 character icons, and a bunch of bugs. I can't say that isn't fitting, but it isn't fun or fair. Let's say your first game, like mine was when getting back into this, was Sewer Rats. Good luck spinning around in a clunky, flat-surfaced area trying to catapult rats into the middle of the map, while the bots have laser accuracy, and the longer you spin, the faster you go. These games all offer something different, and deciding to use the 5 biomes is actually not a terrible decision. Honestly, after losing a minigame once, it's not that difficult to win almost every time the minigame may show up again, but some of them are legitimately unwinnable on the first play, given their description. But let's say you've done it. Let's say you've collected the bug juice required to pull out a magical win. What are you rewarded with? A 5-second cutscene with your mute character and their big stupid head. It feels kind of like a taunt, like, haha, you bought this game, you idiot. And they'd be right.
Thelonious' wish was granted. Kind of. And he lived happily ever after.
And what if you lose? Literally nothing. Booted to the main menu, which is honestly the only saving grace this game has. It's interesting that the devs thought they could put this game out and have people buy it and play it and have fun, considering it is by far the most frustrating game I've ever covered on the channel. Defending this game is tough. So much so that I don't think the hipsterest hipster could make the hot take that the game is good. With that said, let me put on my Shrek-eared beanie and sip my swamp-themed chai latte and explain why you should play it. If you like things like Ninja Gaiden or Lies of P, if you like platformers like Super Mario Kaizo or extremely difficult mods for other platformers, basically, if you're into self-torment and also like minigames, this is actually quite a fun experience. Even more so if you're playing against real people instead of bots that beat your cheeks. In fact, it's painfully obvious that it's the worst Shrek game, let alone the worst party game that's probably ever been released. However, to say that my time was wasted is actually incorrect. I've played Mario Party, I've played WarioWare, Fusion Frenzy, I've played all the hits, and I love party games. This isn't really a party. This is like showing up to a party and literally everyone hates you, but you're too embarrassed to just close the application and go home. And while you're there, if you can somehow eke out a win, maybe the popular kids will think you're kinda cool. But if you're anything like me, you won't, because you're a loser. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I screamed expletives at the screen when I did eventually win a run. I popped off like never before, channeling my warrior spirit, making sure Donkey and Fiona knew that this was my win, and they couldn't take that from me. And while they may be bots in a 20-plus-year-old game, I think I made my point. This game is an experience. Not a good experience, and definitely a bad experience, but it's something you can learn from. It's something that can make you a better person. Maybe you merged in front of that guy and he didn't even beep. Maybe you took the last Shrek-flavored ketchup, leaving a mother of two with her crying children in aisle 6. Or maybe you pretended you didn't see the 99-year-old grandma with weak knees standing on the packed subway 2 centimeters in front of you, because your feet hurt a little. You know what you did. And this might just set your karma straight. So if you can get your hands on a copy of Shrek Super Party, you won't love it. You probably won't even like it. But you won't regret it.